Welcome to Module 2 of the EAT101 Nutrition Basics series. Here's where we'll tackle the topic of protein. Our bodies are partly built from protein, and the class of proteins known as enzymes make life possible by steering the chemical reactions happening every second in every cell of our body. So in that respect, proteins make up the very machinery of our cells. Proteins also make up much of the structure. They are a key part of our bones, muscles, tendons, ligaments, and organs. And they form the basis of many hormones and neurotransmitters, chemicals that allow one part of our body to communicate with and regulate other parts. Our bodies don't store protein, which makes it unusual among the macronutrients. Instead, all the proteins in our bodies are in use unless we've just eaten. So although our bodies can convert protein into energy, this isn't really what it's good for. You'll find protein in varying amounts in all whole foods, and that's because plants and animals use proteins in much the same way we do. The foods you see all contain a decent amount of protein by dry weight, but we don't generally eat foods dry. When cooked, animal foods such as meat, fish and seafood, poultry, offal, eggs and dairy tend to contain the highest proportion of protein. Among the plant foods, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds and meat substitutes like tofu are the highest in protein. You may read that certain vegetables like spinach and broccoli are particularly high in protein, but this is only relative to their dry weight, and most vegetables, including spinach and broccoli, are largely water. The plant-based foods that are rich in protein in practical terms are the nuts, the seeds, the beans and the lentils. The supposed benefits and harms of protein in our diet frequently make the nutrition headlines and occasionally even form the basis of documentaries, so it really pays to know a little about this essential part of our food. Proteins are made up of amino acids, much like a Lego construction is made up of individual Lego pieces. When our digestion is working as it should, the protein we eat is broken down to its amino acid building blocks in our stomach and in our intestines, and then absorbed into our bodies. Our bodies in turn can then use these individual amino acid building blocks to form new proteins. Although it isn't important to know all the names of the amino acids, understanding a little about the different types of amino acids is necessary to make sense of everything from food advertising to protein supplements. One way of dividing up amino acids is by their essentiality. Nutritionists consider a nutrient essential, in this case an amino acid essential, when our body cannot make it from something else in our diet. If our bodies need something but can't make it from something else, it is considered essential because it has to come from our diet. A non-essential amino acid is one that, if necessary, our body could make by rearranging one of the essential ones. And a conditionally essential amino acid is one that becomes essential in certain people under certain circumstances, such as illness. In practice, it's better to get a good supply of all the amino acids in the diet, but at least now you know that if you read the term essential amino acid, basically what it means. Another way of describing proteins is by labeling them as complete or incomplete. Complete proteins are also sometimes called whole proteins. These are proteins that not only provide all the essential amino acids, but they provide them in roughly the right proportion for our needs. Many animal proteins tend to be complete. However, it isn't necessary to get all of our amino acids from one source, so the right combination of incomplete proteins will still allow us to cover all of our dietary basis. The classic example is combining beans and rice. Just to clarify, an incomplete protein isn't so much lacking the essential amino acids, it just doesn't have them in the optimal proportions. Another way of scoring proteins is by protein quality. Not all proteins are well digested, and what we can't digest, our bodies can't use. So beyond defining proteins as complete or incomplete, there are systems for rating the overall quality of the protein. The approaches to rate protein vary in the details, but basically they try to rate the protein based not only on whether it is complete, in terms of having all the essential amino acids in the right proportions, but also how well we are able to digest that protein and therefore how well our body will be able to use it. Unsurprisingly, animal proteins from meat, fish, seafood, poultry, dairy and eggs tend to score high because they're already complete, and it turns out often we can digest them quite well. Some plant-based proteins also score highly, particularly pea and soy proteins. In practice, you would need to eat more of a lower quality protein to meet your needs than you would of a high quality one, but if you follow the recommendations at the end of this module, it really won't matter too much. Mostly the amino acids you get from the breakdown of protein in your diet goes toward building your own proteins, as well as other substances built on amino acids, such as some hormones and neurotransmitters. When needed, our bodies can convert amino acids into glucose, and we cover this a little bit more in Module 4. Our bodies don't have a way of storing excess amino acids, so surplus is going to be converted into fat for storage. Although this isn't the easiest thing for our bodies to do, so it generally isn't something you need to worry about. Here's a bit of a bonus. If you forget the details, it won't change your ability to understand nutrition much. But these are some interesting facts, and they may be useful if you're looking at ways to improve your mood or concentration. In addition to amino acids being the building blocks of proteins, they do form the foundation of neurotransmitters. These are chemical messengers essential to our nervous system, and they're often the target of medications designed to help us with things like mood, concentration, or dealing with pain. For example, the amino acid phenylalanine can be converted to the amino acid tyrosine by our bodies. Tyrosine is the building block of dopamine, adrenaline and noradrenaline, or if you're from the US, epinephrine and norepinephrine. In practical terms, having extra tyrosine may help improve alertness and concentration. However, if you go down this route, speak to your doctor first and avoid tyrosine supplements if you have any thyroid problems. Another example is the amino acid tryptophan, which is the building block for serotonin, the neurotransmitter that is often the target of medications used to treat depression and anxiety. Serotonin in turn is the building block of melatonin, which is basically our sleep hormone, causing us to become drowsy and lower our body temperature at night to prepare us for sleep. Having extra tryptophan may help with mood, but because it has this direct effect on the powerful neurotransmitter serotonin, it can interfere with medication that also works on serotonin, especially antidepressants and sleep medication. So consult your doctor before considering using tryptophan supplements for any use. The last example is glutamine. This amino acid can be converted to the amino acid glutamate, which itself acts as a neurotransmitter, and which can be converted to another neurotransmitter known as gamma-aminobutyric acid, usually just abbreviated GABA. That's interesting because medications that mimic or enhance the effects of GABA are sometimes used in the treatment of seizures, restless leg syndrome, and chronic pain conditions. Unfortunately, there really isn't enough research to say that taking glutamine will help with these problems. If you are thinking about trying supplemental glutamine and are on any medication, do let your doctor know first. Now, on the more practical side, you probably have questions like how much protein, when, and what are good sources? How much protein? Answers in nutrition seldom come this easy, but the vast majority of people will do well on between 1 and 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That's roughly half a gram to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. This is a bit higher than some recommendations, but it's entirely consistent with research highlighting the benefits of modestly higher protein diets. A good portion of protein with each meal will help you feel fuller and more satisfied. Also, the more you restrict your diet in terms of calories, such as going on a very low calorie diet, the more important it is to be on the high side of this range of protein to help you conserve your muscles and your organs while you're reducing your fat. If you're recovering from an injury or doing regular exercise, then err on the higher side of the 1 to 2 grams per kilogram range. Going somewhat higher than 2 grams per kilogram is unlikely to cause problems unless you have kidney diseases or similar. So err on the side of getting enough rather than risking getting too little. When you should eat protein is another easy one. Have protein with every meal and snack. Have a little more protein in the meal or snack following exercise, as that is when your body is best at getting protein into your muscles to help them recover. If you're intentionally keeping your calories low, think about adding a high protein snack to your regular meals so that your body gets a fresh supply of protein every 3 hours or so. This will help you to maintain muscle and help you protect your organs. The protein in each meal will help you feel fuller and more satisfied. It will also help your body to control your blood glucose, which we'll discuss a little bit more in Module 4. And it will help speed healing and recovery after exercise. We really covered this topic at the start, so I'll just expand on a few things. Protein from meat gets a lot of bad press, and some good press as well. Unfortunately, it's very hard to tease apart the effect of specific proteins in meat from other things that may be in meat as well, which will depend on how the animal is farmed and even how it's slaughtered. Meat can certainly contain a lot of high quality protein. If you do opt for meat, especially red meats, opt for grass-fed, preferably organically grown meat. This is to minimize the health downsides and maximize the health benefits. Also go for minimally processed meat, as turning meat into meat products tends to involve adding quite a few ingredients, and not all of them are good for our health. Whether or not you opt to include meat or any animal product in your diet, aim to get your protein from a variety of sources. So include some nuts, seeds, beans and lentils, assuming you can tolerate those well. If you opt for a vegan, no animal product approach, you may benefit from using a vegan protein powder, such as pea protein, to slightly increase your intake of high quality plant-based proteins without needing to have large amounts of beans and lentils all the time, which can be a little bit hard on the digestion. Opting for organically grown will make little difference in terms of protein quality, and probably not much in terms of protein quantity, but it will make a big difference to what else is going to be in the food that you eat. So if you have the option of going organic, or at least buying from a local trusted source, consider it a worthwhile investment in your health. That concludes the protein section. To keep building your foundation of nutrition knowledge, I encourage you to watch our other modules.